Not gonna touch it. Yesterday, what I was trading was BMR. And so BMR, man, BMR kind of did me dirty. I saw it, and actually, let's look over here on the daily chart. So I marked these levels, right? These levels. This was the obvious level that I marked down here on BMR, which was a $4 level. I was like, okay, the $4 level is a obvious level. I got baited in way above this because what I was doing since BMR's news was tied or not tied to, but was very directly correlated with Nvidia. As Nvidia rose, I was like, okay, this stock being so correlated with Nvidia, could this thing go if Nvidia goes up? And so, speaking of Nvidia, let's bring that monster out here. Nvidia on yesterday was, I mean, well, even in the pre-market, it ripped. I mean, this thing gapped from 300 all the way up here to almost 400 bucks. Let me pull it up on the other Nvidia. So let's jump over here. So Nvidia yesterday, and I mean, this thing, I really thought this thing could get going a little bit more. But I guess you could say it was extended from the 304 up here to the 380s. And what I was looking for on that day is Nvidia started holding here at 378. And I was like, okay, I think that BMR can follow Nvidia's move upward. So I started buying BMR as Nvidia started going up. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to wait and see. And BMR just would not give me any play, no play at all. So, so let's go ahead and look at that video. I kind of started the video late. I had already did a entry of like 80 by the time, but you're gonna see there's plenty of videos still left on this. But this was the entry, the original entry as Nvidia was breaking over 381s. It was still red on the day though, so I was like, okay, it's very close. If this thing can push up, this could be good. So I'll kind of fast forward through it, and so this thing kind of started dropping, and also pay attention to the shares. Pay attention to the shares and maybe the P&L, because yeah, I was definitely in a jam. But I was looking at it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a little size around VWAP. If it doesn't work out, okay, it's just a little size. But then I had to remanage the position. So let's go ahead and fast forward through this. Drop down here to the 575s. I was like, okay, 575s looking good. I added at the 575s there, and I am adding on limit orders because I found that I make more money when I control where I buy and where I sell. So I'm doing limit orders. If they don't feel, I just, I don't care. I just leave it alone. But 575, I bought there, and it popped all the way back up here to 6, right? So this is my original entry, 615 here, 80 shares. Popped down. I bought this little dip. It popped back up. I was like, okay, here we go. So I had 100 shares here waiting for a move up. It just played and played. I added a little bit more because I was thinking, okay, this has come down to this level twice. This 537, and then it made a higher low, and it's just playing right under the 6, right? And so I was like, okay, just waiting. Got a little push up. I added, had 119 shares there, adding very small size, and then it came back down. I was like, what in the world's going on? So I added a little bit more on that dip, waiting for it to get through this top of the $6. Right? At this point, look, 128 shares, 129. I was adding very slowly as well. I wasn't jumping in full, trying to get full size or nothing, because it was playing around a lot. And so when it broke this bottom here, 570, I think it was like 570, and popped back up, I was like, okay, here we go. And again, this thing just would not give me any movement through that 6. So I had 194 shares at right under the 6. And it started to drop on me. And it dropped a lot. So at this point, I was like, okay, I added on this drop, right? Added around 5. added around 5, and I actually averaged down a lot. So look at my shares. I got 400 shares and I'm adding around 5. I was like, okay, whatever. And yeah, so I kind of stopped adding around there, had 700 shares, averaged down, down 28 cents from the start. And what did it want to do? What did it want to do? Well, you guessed it. It wanted to continue to drop here. And now this thing is pausing. Give me 1 second. Okay, there's the drop. So it continued to drop there. I added again on this secondary drop. And at this point, it was what, 470 down, 33 cents on BMR. I was like, oh my gosh, I am eating dirt. But after this drop, I was like, hold up. Where was the bottom on the day? And I remembered that the bottom, or the obvious support, was at $4. I was like, okay, I'm just going to hold this thing, let it test 4. If it breaks 4, I'm just going to get out. And so guess what it wanted to do? It came down and tested the obvious level. So continue. There's the 430s all the way down to the 435s, where you can see this support down here, all the way down to the 416s, and I still held. And I was like, and if you look at the P&L, the P&L is definitely in the pain area. I was talking to Donnell. I was like, yo, I'm down like $1,000. And he was like, yeah, man, you might want to use the scissors. I was like, nah, it's in the obvious level. I'm gonna hold it. And so it popped here, popped back up. I was down 800 on that pop. Kept popping up. I was looking to get back to where I had averaged down to, which was the 516. And I was like, yo, if this thing gets past 516, I got to be out of here. So it played around here. I saw some pretty good sizes come in at the 432s, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty good. And then I looked over here on the hour chart, and I saw this candle had quite a bit of support bounce here back to the 475s. I was like, okay, I think I'm good. And so I held, and I said I had my stop. That's when I was looking at Nvidia. Nvidia was curling on this, and I was like, okay, if this thing rips, this could be very good. And this is what Nvidia's 4-hour looked like. It just looked like all it needed to do was get through the 400s, and it could not do it. So I was like, okay, we'll just continue holding. If it breaks down, at this point, my stop was right under this this 4. I think that was like 412 was the stop. And I was like, okay, if it just holds here, I'm gonna be okay. And so gave it a little bit more time. At this point, down 800. Gave it more time, and it started to pop back up and return to my my entry, right? And so up here, I was down $10 now, and this is when I was up 72 bucks. But the thing is, the initial shares that I bought up here at the 6 were still at a loss. So no matter what profit I had, it was minus that loss, right? So I started selling when I got back up here to break even, which was 516. It's at the 505s now. And I was putting in stop orders. And then I was like, nah, I'm going to start limiting out of this. And so at this point, I'm up 143 right there. And I'm looking to sell out of this thing. And the way that my shares sell out is it's tax based. So whatever's the best for tax. So it sells the shares for a loss first to get those out of the way. And then it starts to accumulate the win. So I was up 143 right there, minus whatever. And then I waited a little bit longer, looking for it to got up to the 3 or the 532s, had 210 in pocket, and started to trim up here. There was 200, and where's my trim? I think that was the first trim I just did at somewhere up in here. Okay, yeah, now I'm trimming. So now I'm down to 588 shares, but remember my profit is minus the loss. So when you look up here at today's net realized, it's gonna be calculating, but my unrealized is 167. And so I had 338 shares left. and just reducing that size. I had at that point locked in 57 bucks, and then I was all out there for 92 bucks. So it was around $100 win, but Jesus Christ, when I told Donnell I was sweating, bruh. I was sitting there, when you sweat so much that your socks are soggy. That was that point. So what I realized is I broke one major rule that I usually do not break. One, I don't trade near the VWAP because the VWAP is the stupid line. And I was watching Nvidia do his thing, and I was like, man, well, maybe the VWAP's not gonna matter. I'm just gonna buy here and let it follow Nvidia, right? But it didn't work out. So if I waited for it to dump away from VWAP here, away from this $6, and waited for the obvious level of $4 with that thousand shares that I took, 1,300 or whatever, it would have been a beautiful trade from even if I started a small starter position down here at five, right around the 510s instead of up here at the sixes, would have been a beautiful trade there and a nice little rip out. But it's whatever. It's a learning experience. All I was trying to do was get out at the end of it because I was like, okay, I was wrong. Let me manage this position. Let me not, because there was a lot of shake in the bottom of it. It was just shaking people out, and I was like, you know what? Let me just not overreact. Let's just take our time and manage the position. If it does want to get exponentially lower, I'm getting out below the 4, because the 4 over here on TOS, the 4 was definitely a spot. Wait, no, not BMW, BMR. The 4 was definitely a spot that I did not want to see it back below right here. So 398 was that top, and I was like, yeah, if it goes below that, I'm out. So I held through that and squeezed out a little green day, but man, I count it as a loss because what I try to do is one trade. I only need one trade. And if I only need one trade, I need to be right on that one trade and follow my rules and not be buying right beside the stupid line, wondering why this thing is dumping. You know, it's the stupid line. And I was stupid enough to get baited in following the reaction of Nvidia. And Nvidia did get up. That's the thing. It broke over the 81s, broke over the 85s, broke to the 390s. And I'm like, why isn't BMR getting up? It's on the same catalyst. Matter of fact, Nvidia's in its catalyst news. So why isn't it getting up?